to do it quickly. And even if it does, Tron can still trump that, sweep the board, and go over the top of that. So I think the matchup favors Tron, and I think the addition of the One Ring actually does help that quite a bit here. So I don't know if Tron is the hero or the villain at this stage, but either way, that's our matchup, and we will get you to that right now.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Erik does feature 3 copies of the One Ring along, I believe, yep, with the 4th in the sideboard for the Karn the Great Creators. And yeah, that you bring up a good point where creativity can put an Archon, maybe even 2 into play, and Tron can just kind of go over the top of that. You have stuff like, Ulamog that can cleanly answer 2 copies of Archon. You have Oblivion Stone and things of that nature to be able to answer multiples of those as well. So yeah, you kind of just don't. Sometimes you just don't really care about the one Archon activation. I guess where you really care about it is when they maybe creativity for 3. Get up to creativity for 3 to put 3 Archons into play, and then just you die on the spot. Maybe that's a spot, but yeah, I kind of agree with you. I do kind of like the Tron side of things in this matchup. And
yeah, and you will get the games, of course, where Tron just has Tron into a payoff on turn 3. Also, the games where Tron mulligans to 4 and doesn't do anything. But the games in between, hopefully, will be a little more competitive than that.
Yeah, and as we talked about, or as you talked about, we do see quite a few mulligans here, but that's just kind of the nature of the Tron deck. Erik is going to mulligan until his hand can produce Tron, and we didn't instant mulligan this hand, so I'm kind of assuming that means we found a keeper. Looks like I think I saw at least a couple of Tron lands and maybe a star or 2. The question is, how many cards is this? I want to say it's 4. Looks like we're thinking about a 3rd card to put back here. Is going to be a 4, and we lead off with John on a Wooded Foothills. Got an Urza's Mine and an Expedition map. And remember, John does have 4 copies of Spell Pierce, so this would be a pretty good Spell Pierce target. Speak of the devil.
Yeah, it used to be that turn on map would resolve and stay alive more often than not. Yeah, but nowadays there's Prismatic Ending. There's a lot of decks with 4 main deck Spell Pierce. So if you keep a hand that relies on that map to make Tron, it's risky. There's no guarantee that's going to go through.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, we see the Spell Pierce here. One of a premium target for Spell Piercer. I mean, you would Spell Pierce basically anything in the first 2 turns, but map specifically because, second Tron land plus map guarantees Tron, and now Erik is in a spot where even if he has a second Tron land, has to find maybe a way to make Great Mana and another, like a Sylvan Scrying or something, or an Ancient Stirrings to be able to dig towards that Tron land. And we did talk about second land being a Cascading Cataracts. That's not what Erik's looking for. And, we did talk about how Tron can have the ability to go over the top of an Archon, but if you don't find Tron, you're not really going over the top of anything.
No, it's very much an all or nothing style of deck, and this is where, not to beat the dead horse, but the One Ring actually, but then the ring, it gets you a card, it gets you 2 more cards, it finds you that 3rd Tron piece, and then you get to unload whatever big thing you had in your hand. So that gives you some hope in those scenarios, but Erik will need a little more than that at this stage, I think.
Yeah, and the nice thing about the One Ring specifically, because the wording on it says you gain protection from everything, Archon of Cruelty does target. So if you cast the One Ring and you get the ETB trigger, and John goes for a creativity that turn, Archon's not going to get the ETB trigger. Now, you still have to contend with a 6/6 that does the attack trigger, but you kind of at least have that 1 turn window of reprieve, sort of. We got a Teferi Time Raveler going to go ahead.
Bouncing Expedition map, just delaying that by a turn.
Yep, exactly. I mean, we'll go ahead and sacrifice the Chromatic
Still
Star.
No second Tron piece for Erik yet.
There's a map. And Teferi's going to go upstairs. And we got a Wrenn and Six to pick up land 4, which can give us maybe access to creativity on a future turn. And by getting a Dwarven Mine. Looks like maybe considering sacrificing the fetch land now. So we go ahead and find. It'll be John already down to 10. I don't really think that matters too much in this matchup. But, something like a Walking Ballista comes off of a Karn, you gotta at least be cognizant of that. Okay, we're going to go for a binding on the map.
Yeah, John, I'm sure feeling pretty safe about his life right here. But yeah, you're just doing everything in your power to remove these one drops, bounce the map, kill the map, just stopping Erik from assembling Tron at all costs.
Yeah, and here we
Oh,
see.
okay. That's 2/3 of the way there. There's Oblivion Stone.
Oblivion Stone's actually kind of big here. The fact that it can, be able to answer so many things. We spent 2 mana and put a Dwarven Mine on the battlefield. That was kind of funny. But yeah, Bitter Reunion, discard Dwarven Mine. But yeah, the Oblivion Stone being able to answer, all these Planeswalkers and the Leyline Binding, you only get back a map. But, if maybe Erik just finds 2 more lands that aren't Tron, can sacrifice the O Stone to get rid of the binding, that gets the map back, which then all gets you access to Tron. That could be a plan as well. Here we see Prismatic Ending on the Oblivion Stones.
Prismatic Ending, okay, taking care of the stone. But there's Erik not really under any pressure. No creativity has materialized yet. So in the meantime, it's these 1/1 dwarves kind of chipping away. But this is what turn 5, turn 6, and Erik, still close to 20. If he ever finds a route towards that third Tron piece, then really can potentially just take over the game the following turn.
Right, and there's a forest from Erik, which could potentially unlock a Sylvan Scrying or an Ancient Stirrings. We'll have to see if either of those are on the table. But yeah, like you said, just we've gone quite a few games of this turn without having access to Tron. And I guess John doesn't have his Tron in the form of our Indomitable Creativity. I guess that's his Tron, but not exactly the same thing. But yeah, it looks like maybe setting up for potentially a bigger creativity. And here we go with the Karn. Wonder where that's going to go.
Yeah, the Karn is dead on arrival, effectively, but can get you something nice on its way out. Going to get the One Ring, so a testament to that card's power in the matchup here.
Yeah, and one kind of interesting wrinkle here is this Bitter Reunion. If John does find a creativity, it goes kind of crazy where you can just go see a creativity for 2 with 1 mana left over, target 2 tokens, get 2 Archons, and then sack the Reunion and kind of do it all in one shot. So, we kind of talked about how the Tron deck can go over the top of creativity, but if you just kind of die all in one fell swoop, then there's just not, that's kind of John's way to get around that.
Yeah. Well, worth noting too that Karn can get cards from outside the game or from exile, so it can actually pick up the map that is currently under that Leyline Binding at the top of the screen there. So, in the face of that and Prismatic Ending and Solitude, that ability does actually come up a decent amount.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder if maybe Erik didn't think about that because maybe it might have been better to get the map instead of getting the One Ring, given that I would have to imagine that Erik has a lot of payoffs in his hand and is just desperately missing this Tron. But yeah, that's now off the table. That is a very good point.
Yeah, this is one of those classic creativity games where you kind of have everything going on, right? You have 2 different planeswalkers activating every turn. You have your Fable. You had a lot of removal. You're seeing some cards, but you don't have your namesake card. You don't have the creativity, and so you're just not really accomplishing anything until that changes.
Yeah, it kind of feels like both decks are operating at similar incapacities, where the Tron deck doesn't have Tron and the Creativity deck doesn't have Creativity. So a bit of an interesting dynamic there. But well, speak of the devil, ways that is Tron, right? It's hard to tell sometimes. All right, looks like it is.
Yeah, I don't think Erik is one of those people who plays like 12 different Tron land arts, or they deliberately play the mine that looks like a tower, or the other way around. He's keeping it straightforward, I think.
I'm gonna pick up Gigantha. going towards Gigantha. But yeah, so I guess we had talked about the Bitter Reunion last turn being a, kind of an outlet to one shot with creativity, but now that that's off the table because John used it to kill the Karn, obviously creativity is very good here, but with Erik at 20, even an X equals 4 doesn't kill you on the spot, right? You can just take 12. I guess you would lose your entire hand, but you would still have maybe out still like an O Stone or something like that.
Yeah, two O
Oh,
stones in the deck. Also an Ugin the Spirit Dragon, which would be pretty nice on this board as well.
yeah, this particular turn though, because we just cast the One Ring, we don't get Archon triggered this turn. So if this is the turn that John decides to go for the creativity,
No.
this actually could go, it could work out pretty poorly for John, depending on what Eric's leftovers are.
There is a line too of taking up Teferi and casting the creativity on the opponent's turn to get the Archon triggers once that protection shield has expired. Which even that, depending on what Eric's payoff is, might not be enough, but is a line worth noting. Instead, just picking up the Leyline Binding with the Teferi, drawing a card. I think John decides the binding he's done its job at this point, can give the map back and save the binding for maybe the actual threat.
Yeah, you could even see something like you said, Teferi uptick, and then maybe draw step, creativity X equals 4, get your whole hand or something like that. Like you said, after the ring protection has fallen off, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get rid of that one ring before Eric can draw more cards off of it. And I mean, it's just at this point, really, what payoff does Eric have? Because Eric has been, kind of messing around a little bit with access to a lot less mana, has quite, a couple cards left over, and we'll have to see what particular payoff Eric does have to be able to contend with this board that's kind of getting out of control, even without the presence of creativity.
Eric has quite the mix of payoffs. So no Karn Liberated, that is one distinct feature of this list. In its place, we have the one Ugin, one Cityscape Leveler, one Sundering Titan, one Ulamog, and one Kozilek, and then the Goloses that go with the Cascading Cataracts and some Oblivion Stone. So there's a lot of stuff, and a lot of that stuff is not enough to come back from this spot. So the Ugin, I think, would be Ulamog, maybe the second O Stone, but that's a pretty short list, actually.
Right. Yeah. Like not as many payoffs as, I mean, I guess the One Ring kind of counts, but in this particular spot, One Ring isn't really exactly what you're looking for. You'd much rather have one of those kind of haymaker stuff. And yeah, you're right. Eric doesn't have as many of those. Does deploy a second copy of Urza's Tower, and we're going to go into the tank here. Obviously, Oblivion Stone is certainly the one that we're looking for the most. We're tapping 4. It's another ring, which gets us a card, but card's not really going to keep up with this particular battlefield.
No. And that Wrenn and Six at 7 poised to ultimate as well. So we could see a sudden flurry of lightning bolts, the same spell pierce being cast over and over again, stuff like that.
Yeah, the Cityscape Leveler will take care of that Wrenn and Six, and as we pointed out again, the One Ring does give us protection from a turn. But as you pointed out again, that Teferi being able to uptick, you can creativity on Eric's turn after the shield is already worn off. So that's not really going to. It's decent, but I guess it kind of protects you from getting like second Bitter Reunion plus creativity, where you would get one shot killed. Although, can you really beat discarding 4 cards at this particular stage? Probably not. We'll have to see. And I guess the other wrinkle here is that the 2 fables are flipping, so that even if somehow John hasn't found creativity by this point in the game, like that's also another path to victory, plus all the treasures. So there's a lot for Eric to contend with here.
Yeah, Khan the Great Creator could fetch Oblivion Stone either from exile or from the sideboard, or a few other cards that would be as well. So that maybe is a payoff that we're digging for. And we have enough mana to.
Yeah, we do have 12. 12 is exactly enough, right? 4 for the car and 3 for the stone, 5 for the sack. So that is good. Okay, we're gonna bounce the binding to give Eric back a ring.
Okay, so
Legend rule, keep the ring.
yeah, which we actually, so there was a spot there that Eric could have tap the ring that was about to be legend rule, draw a card, and then get the new one, and then draw a card from that one too. Just to dig a little deeper still.
All right, ring. Let's keep digging. This ring card is really good.
We also now have 2 reflections of Kiki Jiki, which can eventually start doing the trick of one copy's the next one, the copy's the original, and just making a ton of power on Eric's end step. So this, I think the onus is on Erik to do something this turn, turn 10 or something. I have lost count at this point, but we are finally reaching the end game, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to peel a couple of cards here. Now, those reflections do have summoning sickness, so we'll have to wait one more turn. And there's the Karn. Karn, that represents an Oblivion Stone. So all of a sudden, this battlefield about to go kind of all away. We're actually going to pick up the one that got exiled as opposed to the one from our sideboard to give less information, because John doesn't necessarily know that Erik has one at his sideboard, and it's kind of just free to do that. So.
Sure. No, that is a relevant point. Yeah.
Now, funny enough, Spell Pierce can actually break
this
this
would need to
up.
be, I guess, Spell Pierce or double Spell Pierce, but
Well, yeah, even just one Spell
yeah,
Pierce, because we only have 5 mana to pay.
John, we're fetching. Yeah, he's fetching, and he doesn't have blue on tap yet, so maybe.
Yeah, looks like there's the Pierce.
So there's the first Pierce. Pierce number 1.
So
now,
Erik
has a Tron land in hand, which you would think after drawing so many cards would. So you pay for this one, and then any Tron land gets you to 5 again, but doesn't look like that's in the cards for Erik here.
Now we're going to explosives for 0, which can take out the treasures, the Fable tokens, and the dwarf tokens, but that doesn't really contend with the 2 reflections. We got a relic.
No. And notably, if Erik had to let the stone get countered because he didn't have the additional land in hand, well, that's where missing that draw from the legend ruled One Ring actually could be a big deal. If the top card is Urza's Mine, this maybe is a different game.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. That one extra draw step might go ahead and cost him. And we're going to go see a Scalding Tarn fetch here from John, potentially representing another Dwarven Mine, although I guess you wouldn't want to get the mine in the face of the explosive. So just going to get a basic. And yeah, can kind of crunch in with the tokens here. And even if...
I mean, at this point... Are we hardcasting Archon? Like, if we draw one, that might be the best draw in the deck other than Creativity now.
Yeah, because I guess you could just go hardcast Archon and then double copy, which I think is about to happen. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm no math expert, but this is a lot of life loss.
No protection shield from the One Ring this turn. Those have already worn off. Long gone with those. So we're gonna go trigger, put Erik to 15, copy to 9, copy to 12, copy to 9. Yeah, this is easily lethal.
What a strange game. Honestly, I don't quite know what I was expecting when we saw turn 1 of this matchup, but it wasn't that.
Yeah, I would classify this as one of the games of all time, as my Twitch chat would say. But yeah, this looks like we are done, I believe. Take a draw step, attack with some hasty Archons, kind of going through the motions here. Yeah, looks like lethal to me. And let's see if Erik agrees.
The other thing too here is that with the Khan, those treasures could not be used until the bolt killed it. And so if Erik could use the engine exposed in response, we clear out the treasures. Now there's not enough mana to copy and cast the Archon in one fell swoop. So Erik could have bought himself another turn there, I think.
Yeah, you do bring up a very good point. That is very true. So Eric Anderson taking a look at the Mono Green Tron sideboard. A lot of what you see here is Karn the Great Creator targets what we have: a Ballista, a Haywire Mite, a Soulless Jailer, the lovely Gigantha, Cityscape Leveler, Sundering Titan, Pithing Needle, Liquid Metal Coating, Ratchet Bump, Stone Brain, and Snaring Bridge, Oblivion Stone, Trinisphere, the One Ring, and Boseiju. I mean, this is really a one card sideboard dom where we maybe want the Boseiju, maybe not.
Yeah, I would want the Boseiju, especially with so many leyline bindings and so on in the mix. There's always this debate with Karn sideboards over if a card is good in the matchup, or do you bring it in and hope to draw it? Do you leave it there for Karn? If you have a lot of cards that are good, well, do you want some of those in because realistically the Karn will only get one or two of those, and you want to have more cards that are good there. So I could see balling in some of the Stone Brain maybe. Do you want the ring in the sideboard? Do you just want to have four in the deck? The Oblivion Stone that's there, like you probably leave it, but maybe it comes in. I'm not sure. Same thing goes for the Leveler, the Sundering Titan, right? So
Yeah.
8 cards in the sideboard that are good in the matchup. Some of those.
Exactly. So, if we could go ahead and take a look at John's sideboard, we got an Emrakul, 2 Flusterstorm, 3 Nature's Claim, a Turn the Earth, 2 Veil of Summer, 2 Hallowed Moonlight, a Terra Sunder, 2 Dress Down, and a Boseiju. I'm looking at the claims, the Boseiju, and the Terra Sunder. What about you, Dom?
Yeah, I like those. In particular, the Terra, the One Ring, and then if the games goes long, you have access to that mana. It's a pretty flexible removal spell as well. There is a case maybe for bringing in the Emrakul on the grounds that if the opponent has the One Ring, you'd much rather creativity into an Emrakul in that spot than an Archon. But that line is worse against a lot of other things, like Karn Liberated, which isn't in Eric's deck, though John maybe doesn't know that at this stage, and then versus some other lines too. So there is a trade-off there, but I would be tempted to have the Emrakul in as well, I think.
Very, very good point. Yeah, that one turn window, that one turn of reprieve where you go like creativity for 2 archons after the One Ring is cast, you kind of like you don't get anything off of the ETB trigger, and it's almost like suspend one, win the game. Where you're like, do you have the Oblivion Stone? If not, then the attack triggers plus the archons themselves will be able to close out the game. So maybe it does want to go something towards like an Emrakul to be able to kind of mitigate that a little bit more. But we will have to see what John decides to do. All right, so we have players shuffling up here for game number 2.
Good to see John.
Eric appears to be taking a
Yeah, we
mulligan.
saw John on camera already. It actually had a pretty interesting matchup spread, it looked like. So played 2 Amulet decks in a row to start the tournament, played against a new Abzan combo deck with Samurais and so on, and then your Murktide and your Scams and your Rhinos and so on. But pretty interesting kind of eclectic mix of decks there. And then Erik Anderson on the Mono Green Tron side did pick up a draw, which looks like a draw against Rhinos back in round 5. And then and maybe an even stranger mix on his side. We've got a zombies deck in here. We've got some pretty strange stuff. But now we're getting into the creativity bracket.
Can you imagine if you're playing like so hear me out, Dom. So you go up turn like round 1, you're playing blue eye control and you take a draw like maybe in a blue eye control mirror. And then round 2, you're like sit down, you're like, oh man, I'm in the draw bracket. My opponent's gotta be playing blue eye control. And then they just go like Ketria Triumph, like or like Stomping Ground, Suspend Footfalls Pass. You're like, what is happening right now?
You think you're in some kind of like Nathan Fielder kind of sketch or something?
Yeah. Oh boy. All right, so we got some Tron lands and a Chromatic Star or Chromatic Sphere for Eric, excuse me. And we have firing off a Boseiju. Get that Tron land out of here. No turn 3 Tron for you, Eric.
Yeah. And now the question is, does John have the Wrenn and Six to guarantee Boseiju every turn for the rest of the game, which is not very long once you
Yeah, I can't say that I've ever played against that from the Tron side of things, but I can't imagine that that is something that you want your opponent to be doing, given just also the number of basics that the Tron deck has. We only on this actually. I feel like this Tron deck is a little greedy because I feel like I've seen Tron decks that have had 3, 4, or 5 basics, but we're only on 2 this time.
Yeah, so the first Boseiju, probably fine. Second one, the third one is what gets you. Once it's officially like a sinkhole, the opponent will smell blood in the water, I think.
All right. So we're going to sacrifice some chromatic spheres, draw some cards, see if we can maybe find something to do here. That is a power plant. So Erik threatening Tron again. And we will have to see. Now, Boseiju does have the discount clause, but it only counts legendary creatures. So Wrenn and Six uptick was Boseiju. We wouldn't be able to Boseiju this turn. So we're not going to go towards that. Maybe holding up something like a Spell Pierce, potentially some other interaction. But as far as instant speed interaction, outside of Spell Pierce, Flusterstorm, which didn't come in for sure, there's not really a ton else here. I guess Leyline Binding, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, John is threatening. Yeah, like fourth land into creativity would really flip the game pretty quickly. But otherwise, we're just kind of chilling here. Nothing much is happening.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, okay, hold on. No, you lied to me, Dom. There's mismatching towers. So Erik has failed us all.
I had too much faith.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is only 4 mana instead of, I guess it would be 10 instead, or 8, excuse me. Math is hard.
Something like that. I can't, after the Hardened Scales match, I can't really do math anymore.
Yeah, less math, more vibes. I think that's a healthier attitude for everyone.
Yeah. So we do see an engineered explosives here from Erik, and that is going to be on 0. So if John were to go for, say, turn 4 Dwarven Mine, make a token creativity, we can pop that with the explosives. So can't really go for creativity unless we have an answer to the explosives. And yeah, Erik's just gonna be holding this up for a while until maybe eventually gets the Tron and can deploy a threat and kind of try to snowball from there.
Yeah, some creativity lists will have a kind of like Prismatic command or a way to clear out the explosives and also set yourself up for creativity. John does not have that, so there's going to be a 2-step process if that. So going to be just in this holding pattern for a while, I think.
Yeah, Teferi is going to go ahead and bounce the explosives. Pretty sure we can just easily redeploy that. Not a big deal. Really looking for maybe a Sylvan Scrying, an Expedition map, just any way to get that third Tron piece. Sanctum of Ugin is not exactly what we're looking for. I'm going to pick up Gigantha and likely redeploy. We're not redeploying the explosives. Interesting.
Just picking up Gigantha.
Any idea why we wouldn't redeploy the explosives? I mean, there is, I think, Warping Whale was a card that's potentially in here, but I mean, even if you had Warping Whale, you could still go explosives, hold up the Warping Whale. So I'm kind of confused.
Yeah. The nice thing about explosives is it's free, right? Especially if you don't need to use it right away. So I would just play that out and sit there. Warping Well would not be effective on this board state, sadly, in the face of
True.
Teferi. But yeah, I mean, it's potentially shields down for Erik in a spot where we could have had this layer of protection instead. So might be an opening here for John.
Oh, you saw that?
He went 4 mana being tapped right now.
Oh, he went to pick up a card in his hand. Oh man, I guess just forgot about the Teferi because I saw the Warping Whale in Erik's hand. So yeah, must just a very small misstep. That's unfortunate. All right. Well, Archon of Cruelty has hit the battlefield.
Now, if Erik rips, if he rips a third Tron piece, then danger may be in store. But that might be a 1-turn proposition at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point. If a Tron land does come off the top, I guess the specific one we're missing is mine. If we do draw a mine, can potentially get to maybe an Ulamog to blow up Teferi and Archon. Maybe something like a Cityscape Leveler could help us get out of this. But yeah, I have to imagine unless we draw the third Tron piece, it's going to be really hard to beat this Archon in the battlefield. We will see
think
what
if Erik
Eric
had the
does.
mine, yes, mine. There we go. If he had the mine, I think it would be on the board by now. So not looking great. Although, again, the One Ring, right? Like the trigger target. So we could buy a turn, get a card, and get some more cards, and maybe parlay that into something.
Potentially, yeah. The One Ring could buy some time. That's definitely something that we're looking for, given that we don't have access to Tron, and there is no blue band available. So John wouldn't be able to have something like a Spell Pierce. Although we have 6, so we could pay for Spell Pierce anyways. But Eric going into the tank here, thinking about you can't really get to an explosives on 8. That's going to be a little difficult here. Doesn't really want to deploy the Gigantha. I think I see a Karn in his hand. Yeah, looks like Karn explosives Gigantha. So you can Karn and maybe get like O Stone, discard Gigantha, hope to peel the Tron land or something like that.
Not looking good. Yeah, I mean, Khan. I know some decks have like a Phyrexian Metamorph from the sideboard where you get to kind of copy the Archon and throw it back at them. Nothing like that here. And Ensnaring Bridge would not be a good answer either. So really tough spot. I think all routes to Erik winning this game result in just drawing that third Tron piece. And then it's maybe, well, if we draw a map, is that enough? Or scrying or something like that. But we need Tron next turn. Ideally right now, but it has to be next turn at the very latest.
Okay, get a bridge, which if we can survive one turn, maybe that's good. But then I guess the problem with the bridge is the Teferi, where if the Teferi goes up, then it just
Yeah,
goes down one more turn to get the bridge.
yeah. The answer to Ensnaring Bridge is just there on the board. There's no suspense about that one.
Yeah. All right, let's see what John wants to go towards. And the Archon trigger is also going to kill the Karn, so you'll go maybe sacrifice the Karn, discard probably the Warping Whale, take a big chunk of damage. Gonna uptick to Fairy as well. And yeah, this is, I mean, honestly, even if Erik does peel the third Tron land, it's just that Archon plus the Fairy being able to bounce the bridge. I feel like there might be no way out given the context of Eric's current hand.
Yeah, the game might just end on this turn. And John, I the side is not going to make top 8, but big difference between ending your day kind of on the outside looking in and finishing 6-3, which it's a fine record, right? But nothing to write home about. So, and then for Erik, if he thinks he's live for top 8 and potentially threw it away game 1 and game 2, then going to be a long ride home.
Right. So just want to kind of take a look at the standings real quick because I remember seeing John kind of at the very. So John does have the best breakers of the X2s. Now, I believe the first 3 tables drew. So if we pull up the stand, just curious here. So first 3 tables drew. If you think that's 6, yeah, but then okay, yeah. There, I feel like maybe we're in a position where John's probably going to get 9th place. We'll see.
The classic playing for 9th, yeah. But we do have some interesting decks and some familiar faces rounding out our top 8 so far, and potentially more to come depending on how these win and ends break as well. So lot to look forward to with our quarterfinals match a little bit later today, and then for the rest of the top 8 in the morning tomorrow.
Absolutely. So we do see Erik go for the ensnaring bridge with Teferi on 3, likely going to just go ahead and bounce that. Also, could maybe find like a prismatic ending or something. Sure, like you mentioned, plenty of more than one way to eat this Reese's, and that is going to do it. John extends the hand, And that is going to be John taking the match 2-0 over Erik. And we do have a time shifted match for all of you. In case you didn't have enough magic content in this game, we have Ross on the left hand side of your screen playing Amulet Titan, alongside Ryan on the right hand side of your screen with Rakdos Scam. How's this matchup usually for Amulet, Dom?
Oh, it's real bad, Jim. You know, this is the nightmare matchup right here. I actually stop me if you've heard this one before. I think the One Ring is a good card in this matchup from the Amulet Titan side. However, that maybe you can get into like the 40-ish% range, maybe. Still a pretty bad matchup. We still rather play against basically anything else.
But what if I told you that the Amulet of Vigors and Primeval Titans were white bordered?
Okay, does that bestow any like special powers upon them? Does the amulet have some like new hex put on it, something like that?
No, not at all. It just makes it a lot more heinous to look at from a commentator's perspective. Oh my goodness, Dom. What am I looking at here?
Well, now I'm worried that the entire rest of the deck is going to be white bordered too. Oh,
Yep.
yeah, there it is. Oh dear God.
Oh my goodness. What are we doing
I
here?
didn't think you could get me to root against the amulet deck in this matchup, but I'm almost there, Devin. I'm almost there.
All right, good. You and I are on the same page then. All right. Well, what is actually happening here is a Thoughtseize is being cast. I think that's a Cultivator Colossus. I know it's a Pact and Explore and some lands. I'm pretty sure that's a Colossus. Kind of funny with the Voidwalker. Ooh, we're not gonna take. Interesting. So we went Voidwalker into Thoughtseize, but we didn't take the Colossus. Huh.
Yeah, I mean the Colossus here, you have the Summoners Pact as a more immediate threat. Titan could end up being a more deterministic or reliable threat than Colossus anyway. And also, Scam historically is like a 19-20 land deck. Not a great deck to have a Colossus trigger in. So can't really turn that against them very easily there. But people are theorizing that actually these are the sleeves that have the kind of white border inlay. So you have your black border card, you put them in, they look white bordered. That's a coward's way out, Devin. If you're going to do this, at least commit to the bid and get some white borders on those physical cards.
Oh man, yeah, I've seen those sleeves before. Not the biggest fan of them, but I've also seen people who just like erase the borders in their cards, and it could be either or at this point. We're really no way to tell, but either way, it's something that we have to look at, and I'll accept that. That's fine. But we see Ryan going to go ahead and get in with the Ragavan there, potentially not attack the Voidwalker. Might want to go towards this Explore. Is going to go ahead and fetch a Swamp, and potentially maybe looking at something like a Blood Moon here. See if we have any. Yeah, 2 copies of Blood Moon main deck.
Yeah, and Blood Moon is just one of many reasons why this is such a difficult matchup. Often will end game on the spot or put amulets so far behind that they can't possibly recover. This is okay, just hardcast grief. That's also pretty good.
The Fair Grief.
But now, you see, so there were 2 threats in the hand. Yeah. We're going to copy the amulet end of turn. We're going to untap 2 amulets. And so at that point, any ramp spell is going to let Ross cast whichever one of those threats is left over in his hand. So big turn here for Ross. A really swinging moment about to happen here.
Man, I wanted Ryan to cast the Colossus so bad. I mean, he probably just doesn't have any lands in his hand for it, but yeah, only 1 card left. The Colossus not really that great. Would have been pretty sweet if it was Titan, though.
Yeah, well, this line is a lot riskier because leaving the pact means because the pact can be a ramp spell or a creature, if you draw any one of those, you draw a threat, you pact for the ramp spell, that leaves Ross a lot more outs, and Ross firing off the pad. It looks like he has one of those missing pieces ready to go.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and grab the Azusa. And we're getting out the basic land, so it's definitely time for some fireworks. Now, I have a question for you, Dom. So if it is the white border, like the sleeves that makes the card white border, do you think that is an 8th edition white border forest that's in a white border sleeve?
I don't know if I hope it is. Yeah, I do. I hope it is. I really hope it is.
All right, we're making some mana. We're doing some stuff. And there is a Summoner's Pact. 9 mana floating. I have to imagine this is pretty close to lethal for Ross. Gonna go ahead and grab the Primeval Titan and get some haste things and do some stuff. This might even be able. I'm pretty sure you can go 2 Titan attacks here because you have 9 mana floating, Titan with 3. You go Bounce Land, T West, which is 6. Not yeah, there should be 2 Titan attacks. There should be more than enough.
The Amulet player, or someone claiming to be the Amulet player, is in chat saying it's all whiteboarded by hand, no sleeves here. So I applaud that. I have to tip my cap. However, I worry that when some new card gets printed, it's like, okay, well, I got to buy my 4 copies of the One Ring and get them whiteboarded somehow, just defining these beautiful new cards. Like that's going to be a pretty recurring experience.
Oh boy. Yeah, I know. The worst part to me is the Primeval Titans. So they're not even like the regular, M12 or whatever Primeval Titans. They're the old retro Black Border Primeval Titans that were also man, I don't know. There's a lot to take in here, Dom.
A lot to unpack, as they say.
Yeah. All right, we're doing some attacking and
Going
some
through the
hasting.
motions here. Chaining Titan into 2 Titans, getting haste, and then double strike, and we will be on to game 2. I might still take the Scam side in the matchup just because, I think Scam is that advantage. But if anyone, this is a great spot to be in now. Ross, we'll take a look at the sideboard before too long here. And if you want to improve the matchup, you can do it, but it takes a lot of slots and a lot of effort. So we'll see if Ross is going to those lengths.
All right, get the double strike land, some mana floating. We are going to go ahead and make these Titans super extra mega lethal, and we will be going to game number 2 here in just a second after we take a look at the sideboards. We have Ross on Amulet Titan. We got an Endurance, an Altered Ego, a Tyrannix Rex, 3 Swan Song, 3 Dismember, 2 Force of Vigor, an Explosives, a Bajuka Bug, a Boseiju, and a Cavern. Have to imagine we want to go towards the Force of Vigors, but anything else that you like here, Dom?
I do like the Dismembers a lot. It's your best answer to a turn 1, Fury Scam line. Can kill a Voidwalker, kill other stuff. Good way to bring. I'm actually less sure about Force of Vigor, just because, it kills Blood Moon, but they have so many good angles of attack against you, and also a lot of discard. So sometimes they take your Force of Vigor and then cast up Blood Moon anyway. Sometimes they see your hand, leave the Force of Vigor stranded there, take your threat. Now you wish the Force of Vigor was any other card. So I actually think I would leave Force of Vigor on the bench, bring the Dismembers, bring the Boseiju, maybe the Tyrannix Rex or something, but call it a day otherwise.
Perfect. Well, that is going to be Ross's list. Maybe we can go ahead and get Ryan's list pulled up. We have the Rakdos Scam side of things. 2 Turoks, 1 Hinatsugu Consumes All, an Orvar, 2 Fatal Push, 2 Kolaghan's Command, 2 Path of Peril, an Engineered Explosives, a Ratchet Bomb, 2 Unlicensed Hearse, and a Blood Moon. So definitely want to look towards the Blood Moon. After that, maybe not a ton else, but if we kind of assume that Scam is a big favorite in this matchup, probably doesn't need to do a ton.
No, you could look at something like the Explosives to mop up Saga tokens or double Amulet starts. Kolaghan's Command is fine in that vein as well. And then Turok is kind of interesting too, actually. If you get to cast that in the mid game, you can really just take their resources out from underneath them. So pretty minimal sideboarding. Don't need to do much. Matchup's already pretty good. Would be happy to mostly run it back.
All right, so we are off to the races here. In game number 2, we got a couple of lands. Most notably an Ursa Saga on turn 1 for Ross. Now, a lot of decks don't usually want to play Ursa Saga on turn 1. I guess the Hammer Time decks do, but decks that have these 1-mana artifacts that they really want to get onto the battlefield as quickly as possible, that makes the turn 1 Ursa Saga a lot more scary. And in this case, being able to get Amulet of Vigor as early as the 3rd turn really helps set up those double Amulet draws as well.
Yeah, it's a high risk line in the sense of, yeah, if Ryan has a Blood Moon, or Saga disappears, and probably your hope of winning the game disappears. But that's kind of true as it is anyway, and Saga can power your explosive draws that beat some of the other stars.
All right, we're making some mana. Got a bounce land, got a grazer, and also going to deploy a Dryad and a Teleria West. All right, well, that's a pretty good turn two for Ross, and we know there's a bounce land in hand with the Teleria West on the battlefield, so Saga can go Chapter 3, float a mana, get a second copy of Amulet, and then you can go Simic Chamber twice, that's 8 mana, float the T-West, that's 9, pick up T-West down to 6, transmute, that's enough for Titan. So, on with the information that is all known to Ryan, we do have enough for a Titan now. Fury's going to go ahead and get rid of the Dryad to try to prevent that.
Yeah, but Ross's cards are effectively on the table. Ross knows what's coming. Ryan knows what's coming. Got to have a really big turn right here. Which we'll see.
Fetching for a swamp can't be a good sign.
I mean,
for
if this
Ross.
is the Blood Moon, that's it. But then I'm trying to think of anything lesser than that. Oh no! Please just fetch a Blood Crypt. Anything but basic swamp.
All right. Well, there is the Blood Moon. Gonna go ahead and get rid of the Saga. And yeah, this is oh boy, this is gonna be uphill battle for us.
Maybe next game.
Just go next. We got Grazer to protect us, though. It's fine. All right. Second copy of
We
Blood
don't
Moon.
even, though. We can't even block that. Can't block the Dalthy, even. Yeah. Shadow's too powerful.
Now, I will say, if Ross did bring in those Force of Vigors, there are 2 Blood Moons in play, so that could potentially be something. But yeah, it looks like we're maybe quite a ways away from that. And like you said, maybe didn't even bring in the Force of Vigors in the first place. So yeah, we're just going to go beatdown mode with Dalthy. Not really a lot we can do with the Grazer. I mean, I guess it protects us from a top deck Ragavan, or maybe the Ragavan that's in Ryan's hand.
Yeah, Ross playing it out, just why not, right? Especially at this stage of the tournament. But already, I think, mentally going to game 3 in his head.
Yeah. All right. That's a lot of mountains for Ross. Maybe hear me out, Dom. What do you think about sideboarding in red cards against Blood Moon? So you just let them Blood Moon you, and then you just board in like a bunch of Furies and stuff. Just hardcast them.
I'm into it. Yeah, let's go. I like that.
Yeah, we can even cast.
I know some lists have played Phyrexian Metamorph, so that you can copy their Fury once they Fury scam and kind of throw it back at them. But not a reliable plan, is the way I would put it.
Yeah, chat's mentioning Inferno Titan. I do kind of remember that period of time where Amulet players were playing Inferno Titan, and I guess if you have 5 mountains in play, what's the difference between 5 and 6? You might as well just wait. You might as well just play Inferno Titan at that point. But yeah, there we go.
Right. I mean, like we said before, that one of the joys of Amulet is you can just play anything you want, basically, and the rest of the deck can kind of carry whatever nonsense you've put in there. So you want to play Inferno Titan? Have at it. That's what I say.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get you down to game number 3. We are all square at 1 apiece, excuse me. Ryan Reynolds on Rakdos Scam, Ross on Amulet Titan, and we do see the Amulet Titan player gets to play first, which is, against turn 3 Blood Moon, or I guess potentially turn 2 Blood Moon, if a Ragavan connects, is definitely a good spot to be. But I still think we like the Scam side of things in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm on the play. If you have one of your best draws, you kind of have to hope that their cards don't line up well, so they make a turn on Fury with a counter, but you have the turn 3 kill, or they have a weak hand with the Blood Moon, you answer the Blood Moon, and then you pop off after that. But you kind of have to hope for that kind of mismatch, because all of their angles are so good against you that it's tough to win otherwise.
All right, Dom, I don't know if you took a look at Ross's hand, but there are 6 white border cards and 1 black border card. So apparently That leads me to believe that it's probably not the sleeves, and it's possible that the erasing of the actual white bordering of the cards might be correct, and maybe we couldn't bring ourselves to get rid of the Boseiju.
Well, now I want to know what the black border card is.
All right.
Boseiju? Oh,
Yeah.
you couldn't find a white bordered Russian Boseiju, Ross? Didn't
All
look hard enough.
there's a saga and an amulet of vigor. I can't even take this seriously anymore. All right, fine. Serious mode. We got a grazer and a whole bunch of lands. There's the Boseiju. And we are going to scam the grief. Funny enough, scamming grief not that great against this hand because we only have one spell, but does want to put the 4/3 into play to get a little bit of pressure. A lot of lands here for Ross, but I guess kept, I mean, does have Saga into amulets, so potentially can set up 2 amulets and then wants to keep on the strength of having the Boseiju in the opening hand to be able to answer that Blood Moon.
Yeah, this hand is weirdly resistant to grief because you just don't have any good cards left after turn 1. But now, if you draw a Titan or another threat in the next few turns, you can just steal the game out of nowhere. And so I think you have to kind of put your chips in the middle on a hand like that and hope for the best. And so, yeah, I think so far it kind of worked out, but we need to complete that second step of drawing the pack, drawing the Titan now.
All right, we're going to go beatdown modes with the grief here. I believe the explosive should have a counter on it. It is a time shifted match, so just chat, just pretend that it has one counter on it. We can all remember. So Saga's going to go to chapter 3 here. Is going to likely find an amulet. Okay, going to go for map, which leads me to believe, I guess, didn't have maybe wants to get a basic forest here to try and play around Blood Moon. I have to see what Ross wants to go towards.
Yeah, it seems like he missed on the threat that turn, and in the face of explosives, if he gets another amulet, they're just going to die anyway. So, going to try and find some kind of land now. I don't think there's a great option. It could be just a second saga, honestly. Could be a basic forest. A few ways you could draw that up there.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and exile the Vesuva, which I guess makes maybe some lines a little bit more awkward, but I feel like Vesuva's maybe one of the one of the less relevant ones, maybe in a matchup like this. So, you always have to be a little bit careful of, getting your what of hit off of the Ragavan, like especially the haste land or something if you're only playing one copy. But Vesuva probably one that Ross can do without for the time being.
Yeah, you do sometimes find yourself in these spots against the Ragvan decks where if they hit any of the other 50 cards in your deck, you're fine. You've got the win next turn. But then they hit the one Slayer Stronghold or something, and your whole house of cards collapses.
Yep. So we're going to see the map sacrifice. That's going to get a Mycosynth Gardens. Interesting. So, huh. Okay, we showed Gardens. Okay, we're actually going to get Saga. That makes a little bit more sense because I was wondering, is like you wouldn't really want to get the Gardens if you know the explosives is going to get sacrificed to kill the amulet. And Ryan's going to do it now to make sure that Ross does not have access to more mana on his turn. So that makes a little bit of sense. And now you can maybe go towards like some Saga beatdown plans, but I don't even know if that raises the grief. So really tough spot here for Ross.
Ragavan did die to Ryan's own explosive, so taking one for the team there, slowing down the clock a little bit. And Ross, if he has time to start making constructs and so on, we could get back into it. But Grief with additional power and menace is a pretty imposing clock. So really needed, I think, maybe a Grazer there or Dryad, some other blocker to get around that, but going to be on a tightrope otherwise.
All right. Well, here is a Thoughtseize, and that's going to be a Primeval Titan and a bunch of lands. Yeah, this is kind of a really rough spot. Going to go ahead and attack Ross with the Grief. Not a ton of outs at this point. I guess we have enough mana. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't even quite have enough for a Titan, right? Even if we were to rip another Titan, we only have 4 in play. I guess we can get an amulet with a bounce land, so I guess we might have enough.
Yeah, if he draws a Titan, we can nothing. And making a construct a sign that we didn't draw the threat So just going to be all in on these for now.
Well, theoretically, the constructs can double block the grief to kind of get that off of the battlefield. But any kind of removal spell kind of it just breaks that up instantaneously. So we'll have to see exactly what Ryan does have. Got a lot of spells because Ryan, funnily enough, has not played his third land of the game. And there is, turn whatever turn it is. We've now played our third land. And okay, Feign Death. I was gonna say if we had a removal spell, we
Ryan
could
just
cast
has
that
so
before
many cards in
attacks.
hand. There has to be something, right? Yeah.
Oh, also worth noting, Dom. So we just took a look at Ross's hand. There was 2 white border Boseijus and the black border ones in play. So I'm wondering if maybe that's just like the sideboard Boseiju.
Sure, that would make sense. Still less sense than it being whiteboarded like everything else, but
Yeah,
here we are.
exactly. All right. Well, Ryan Reynolds is going to take that match down 2-1 over Amulet Titan. We did kind of assume that that's how the match was going to go. That was a very tough matchup for Amulet Titan. But it looks like we are going to give us a we're gonna go to a little bit of a break here because we are setting up top 8, getting some top out. Or actually, before we go for a break, we're gonna go through some ads real quick. So let's maybe pull up some stuff here. Maybe okay. We're gonna go over the next events. Sorry, I'm getting a little flustered here. All right, so we have this is this event. No, sorry, next event, July 8th through the 9th. 10K Team Showdown. I promised Dom, I got it this time. We're good. 10K Team Showdown, 5K Legacy Trial. That is going to be St. Louis, July 8th through the 9th. And then if we take a look at some more events, we got August 12th and the 13th in Detroit. We got a 10K Modern Showdown and a 5K Pioneer Trial. Then we got October 14th and 15th in Indianapolis. That's going to have a 10K Pioneer Showdown as well as a 10K Team Trial. And then finishing out the end of the year, November 25th and the 26th in Madison, we have a 10K Modern Showdown as well as a 5K Pioneer Trial. That is what the rest of the season looks like. And then we also have every single Nerd Rage event, 4 RCQs a weekend, up to 9 RC invites, and $15,000 in cash prizes. And then if we want to take a look at something else that the players are playing for in every single showdown winner gets a token of their liking. This is the token that we have from Max, Theo, and Connor on your screen, the Goblin Shaman token, and that is really awesome. We can also take a look at the already qualified players for 2023. We got Raja Salimans, last year's champion, as well as Steven Dykman and Daniel Weiser, both are March and May winner of the showdowns, respectively. And then also, let's take a look at what these players are playing for. First place in our event today, $2,400, the trophy, and an invite to the end of the year championship. As well as you can see all of those lovely points that are up for grabs, specifically related to our leaderboard, which if we can go ahead and take a look at our 2023 leaderboard, we will see that Steven Dykman is basically dominating everything at this point. The man cannot be stopped. Steven Dykman and Daniel Weiser, as we already saw, qualified for the end of the year championships, as well as, players who are constantly on the tour, Sarah Shearing, Sean Gallagher, Tiago Saporito, just a whole host of amazing names. And we will have to see how everything plays out. So with that, we are going to go to a bit of a break here while we get everything situated for top 8. We thank you all for your patience, and we will be back here hopefully not too long for the top 8.